The internet. Something almost everyone has access to and pretty much every teen uses on a daily basis. It's filled with tons and tons of information ranging from social media networks such as Instagram and Snapchat that everyone is familiar with, all the way to albums upon albums of embarrassing family pictures. The internet is filled with millions and millions of data, information, files, bits. Bits are the smallest unit of data to which information is stored online. The size of anything online is determined through some form of bits. You might be familiar with megabytes and gigabytes. These are just two of the many larger units of measurements for bits. So that last snap you sent to your friend was approximately 13 kilobytes in size, or in other words, 13,000 bytes. Looking at a larger scale, movies on average can be as large as 3 to 5 gigabytes, each gigabyte being equal to a billion bytes. It is said that the internet contains approximately 1,200 petabytes of information. This is equal to 1.2 billion gigabytes. Now that is a huge amount of information for anyone's brain to even start to comprehend. Speaking about brains, your brain does something quite similar. It is able to capture, retain, and recall information from the past, but we all know that our brains aren't made up of giant networks of electronic hard drives. So how is this all done? Well, it's all thanks to the process of memory. Memory is an ability we humans possess that allows us to encode, retain, and recall information from the past, essentially allowing us to let our past experiences influence current behavior. In more neurological terms, memory at its simplest is a set of neural connections in the brain. Experiences such as typing and sending a text message are converted into a pulse of electrical energy that travels and makes its way through a network of neurons. This form of information first lands in short-term memory, where it is able to be retained and recalled from a few seconds to a couple of minutes after. It then is transferred to long-term memory through areas such as the hippocampus located in the temporal lobe, then finally is sent to several storage regions across the brain. Neurons, used to transmit information through the body and located across the brain, communicate at specific sites called synapses. If two individual neurons communicate repeatedly, something remarkable happens. The efficiency of the neurotransmitters that are used while the neurons communicate increases. This microprocess is called long-term potentiation, and it's considered to be a mechanism by which memories are stored long-term. This idea of the pathways in our brain becoming more efficient the more we use them links in with the idea of practice. Brain tissue is composed of gray matter and white matter. White matter in the brain is consisted of fatty tissue and nerve fibers, and in these fibers, there are axons, which allow for the transportation of electrical impulses. These axons are surrounded by a fatty substance called myelin. Myelin is essentially a form of insulation for the axon, and its function is to make sure electrical impulses traveling through the axon are not interrupted by any exterior factors. The more you practice something, the more the layer of myelin is manipulated and constructed to perform its function more efficiently. Back to talking about long-term memory, there are various forms of it that information is stored as. Explicit memory, also known as declarative memory, is a type of long-term memory that requires conscious thought and the memory that most people are familiar with. Remembering what you studied the night before your test and remembering who you had dinner with last night are both great examples of the use of explicit memory. Explicit memory is often associative, meaning that your brain may link one memory with many others. For example, if you were to think of a word or occasion, such as school, your memory can bring up a whole host of associated memories: mathematics, science, English, stress, and thousands of other things. Another type of memory is episodic memory. This is a form of explicit memory of which you recall details of events from the past, experiences that you were part of and almost remember as an episode. How well we record an episodic memory depends on several factors. For example, things that impact us emotionally or trigger some kind of emotional change are often stronger moments and are remembered in depth. Another important factor is the strength with which your brain records the memory when you first experience it. If you were to focus on your surroundings and what you are able to see, hear, smell, taste, and feel very accurately and precisely, the memory would be recorded with more power, making it easier to recall later. Another form of memory is semantic memory. It accounts for our textbook learning and our basic knowledge about the world. It's what allows us to say, without knowing exactly when and where we learned, that a zebra is a striped animal, or that Paris is the major city in France. Some say that semantic memory happens or takes place in the hippocampus and related areas, while others think it's widely spread out throughout the brain. Unlike episodic memory, semantic memory is better sustained over time. People are often able to retain a well-functioning semantic memory into their 60s, after which it undergoes a slow decline. Now that all these different memories are stored, how is one able to recall or retrieve their memories? The two main methods of accessing memory are recognition and recall. Recognition associates an event or physical object to one that has been previously experienced or encountered. Essentially, it is the method which allows for the comparison of information with memories. Examples being having to recognize a known face, answering true and false questions, and more. It is largely an unconscious process and is done quite effortlessly. Recall, being the second method, involves remembering a fact, event, or object that is not currently physically present and requires the direct uncovering of information from memory. Examples being having to remember the name of a recognized person, answering fill-in-the-blank questions, and more. Our brains are quite good at creating memories and storing them for long periods of time. However, certain things we do can limit the efficiency of the process of memory and even lead to memory loss. Sleep deprivation, the condition of not obtaining enough sleep, is quite a large factor that can easily lead to memory loss. At extents, it can also be deadly, putting you at risk for heart disease, heart attacks, heart failure, high blood pressure, strokes, and even diabetes. Depression is also a quite large factor. Being depressed can make it difficult to pay attention and focus, which can affect memory. Stress and anxiety can also get in the way of concentration. When you are tense and your mind is overstimulated or distracted, your ability to remember can suffer. Stress caused by an emotional trauma may also lead to memory loss. Physical injuries to the head can result in severe damage, causing both short and long-term memory loss. Now, after watching this video, I hope you remember what I've talked about and have stored it in your long-term memory. The human mind is quite vast, and we still don't fully understand how such a small organ is capable of performing such complex functions. All the way from dreaming to recalling something that occurred many years ago, the human brain is quite an interesting thing to look at and observe. I hope your memory is able to serve you well for the coming years of your life, unless you do things to purposely rupture it. In that case, I hope you are able to remember what will eventually happen. Thank you for watching.